I want to talk to you guys about is the issue of if I believe in God if I believe in God or not. Now, to be honest with you, is God, and just in general, it goes along with my beliefs, and it also relates to, is God real? And I have to say, to be honest with you, that actually, I think is a question that pretty much, I'm not going to give an exact number because I don't know any atheist, but it is a known fact that a lot of people, even a huge amount of people who believe in something, they have their own hidden agendas of why they believe it, and they use their beliefs to kind of manipulate other people. I'm not going to give an exact number. I'm not going to say it's a majority. But, of course, if anything, it would be the minority. I don't know. But the question of God, is God real? Now, first off, I want to say I'm not a Christian, okay? I don't believe in religion, okay? The book is too flawed, and this world is, this world is so complicated, is so complicated. It would be really hard to it would be really hard to judge people, which is a very interesting topic, I could get to later on. It's not an easy issue. It's not an easy issue. But at the same time, I have to simply ask atheists this question. I mean, well, no, I'm not trying to say atheist, but in general, because I don't like to focus on, negative people. Let's just say I've had a lot of negative experiences with them, and I've seen them do a lot of negative things online. But personally, what I believe, for people out there who are trying to make up their mind on the issue of if God is real or not, look at this, because there's pros and cons. Some people say, how does something come out of nothing? And at the same time, you have the people who say, well, if God existed, who created him and who created that person? But you have to realize something. Human beings, we only inhabit this planet, okay? So some things that happen are kind of beyond our regular comprehension. Let me give you an example. Okay? As we all know, as a lot of us know, or at least believe, the earth is round. Okay? Now, probably just about everybody has wondered this. I used to wonder this a lot. If the earth is round, why don't we feel like we're moving on a sphere? If we're moving on a sphere, because that's what the earth is. That's what a solid circular object is. It's a sphere. Why don't we feel like we're moving on a sphere? Everything from us walking and even traveling from, let's just say, maybe New York City or Toronto all the way down to the Caribbean. According to that, and just in general, as we're walking, as we're traveling to different parts of the world, and we're going up north and south, why don't we feel like we're moving on a sphere? Because anybody who might have, because obvious common sense would tell you, if you're moving on a sphere, the further and further you go up, you would actually start to feel like you're going farther up in the world, farther up in the world, you would feel like you're moving on a sphere. That's a good question, but at the same time, another good question is, if the earth is if the earth is flat, according to some people, because it does feel flat, why don't we hear about people falling off the face of the planet? You know, because like I've said before, that theory in itself does not make sense at all. Why do we have people in Antarctica? You know, people might say, how do you know Antarctica is real? But just in general, why don't we hear reports of people falling off of the edge of the earth? Off of the edge of the earth. And the thing is, it's yeah, Mom, hold up for a second. Yeah, but yeah, so like I was saying, I was distracted for a bit. I was distracted for a bit. You know, I have other things to do. But like I was saying before, if the Earth is flat, why don't we hear reports of people falling off the Earth? Because if it's flat, it's not just because when people think of people falling off the Earth, if the Earth was flat, they think of people falling off falling off the Earth in Antarctica, you know. But at the same time, you have to realize if it was a circular flat disc, it would go in all directions. There's people who've traveled from Japan to America. There's people who've traveled to Australia and New Zealand. You see what I'm saying? No one, you know, so if that's really the case, why hasn't anybody fallen off the Earth? You know, but at the same time, why does the Earth feel? Why does the Earth, when we're walking around it, not feel circular? I mean, doesn't feel. It doesn't feel like we're walking on a circular object. You know, you see, that's the truth about it. What I'm trying to say is that in life, even if two things don't really make much sense to us, and you have to understand, and you should be more, and I believe you should be more likely to believe, what is the most logical out of the two ideas, or maybe even multiple ideas, what is the one that makes the most amount of sense? What is the one that makes the most amount of sense? You know, because honestly, man, people have been wondering if the Earth is a sphere. Why don't we feel like we're moving on a sphere for the longest period of time? You know, some people say it's gravity. Well, of course, it has to be gravity, but they don't go into too much depth to explain. But even still, they don't go into too much depth. That people have still been wondering that for the longest period of time. So, in general, man, you have to realize some things. Some things in this world are just in this. I could just say universe are just beyond our understanding. You know, and if you have two ideas, both of which make sense, both of which are hard to understand, I should have said. You should be. Why don't you listen to one that makes the most amount of sense? Because it is a good point. How does something come out of nothing? You know, how does something come out of nothing? You know, how are there other people that exist aside from us? You know, because atheists, they believe in the universe creating consciousness. How is there other consciousness? How is there other people that exist? You know, how's there other things that just exist? You know, exist. You know, that can visualize and see the world. You know, because we only see the world from our perspective. You know, so in general, we only see the world from our perspective. In this world, you know, in this world, we cannot imagine being someone else. we wonder how could a lot of people wonder how there could be someone else who exists, someone else in the world who exists, So in general, like I said before, we live in a complicated universe. So automatically from the get-go, there's a lot of questions that science cannot answer. Will we be able to answer it someday? Maybe. But just in general, some things are beyond the human comprehension, and this is why it's good for people to think instead of to think about these sorts of things, because that's the truth, and that's really it, and that's all I have to say for this video. Subscribe if you like it.